Welcome to our full spoiler review for Supergirl. Let's get into it.
It is time again for movie musings.
Alright, I watched Supergirl. I'm going to give my overall rating and break that down into the 5 categories as usual for entertainment, story, acting, special effects, and action sequences. All those apply to this, so that's how my ratings will be compiled. So the movie summary is that the movie Supergirl follows Kara Zor-El, who is Supergirl, played by Millie Aycock. And it's a much darker and more personal adventure when compared to the previous new DCU film universe of Superman, which was a little bit lighter. This one's inspired by Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. The story basically is an interstellar road trip. It blends revenge, redemption, and self-discovery. And with all that said, we're going to start talking about the rating. So I'll give you my overall rating. Overall rating, I gave it an 8.4 out of 10. This is getting a lot of hate online. I have no idea why. I had a good time. Very entertaining. I thought Millie did a great job with the character that James Gunn wanted her to play. She was funny, and a little, you felt empathy for her. So for entertainment value, it was a 9 out of 10. The time flew by. It was very fun. I'll have my nitpicks, and I'll talk about more about that in the full spoiler review. But overall, I enjoyed it, and it was a good experience. Story, 7 out of 10. I knocked that down just a little bit. It's a fairly overall simple story, which a lot of superhero movies are. So not real surprise there. But there's a couple other things that I felt were just a little bit, made me roll my eyes, or not even roll my eyes, but question a little bit, like what? But I'll talk about those in the full spoiler review as well. Acting 8 out of 10. Nothing came up that was glaringly bad. I thought the girl that played Ruth did a really good job. I've seen her from somewhere, but I didn't look it up to see where from. But she did a good job, and Lobo was great. Basically, Momoa was born to play that role like Tony Stark was, or like Robert Downey Jr. was for Tony Stark, in my opinion. Special effects, I gave it an 8 out of 10. I saw some people were complaining about it. I didn't see it in IMAX or anything. I saw it on a regular digital screen at the theater. I didn't see any glaring problems with the special effects. Nothing took me out of the story. A little bit of the action was blurred down. Maybe you noticed it then. It was the same kind of thing even with Zack Snyder's movies. When it was fast action, like when Supergirl's throwing somebody around and moving fast, it can be a little distracting and a little off, but that's maybe 10 seconds, 20 seconds of the movie, so I didn't really knock that down too much for that. There's also nothing special about the special effects. There wasn't like anything that blew my mind, but overall I thought the special effects were really good. Action sequences, gave it a 10 out of 10. Like I said, I was thoroughly entertained. Every action sequence was planned out well. The choreography was great, and so there were some cool moves from each of the players in it, and they were well done. So, like I said, my overall rating is 8.4 out of 10, and that's where we stand on that. Okay, here's your 5-second spoiler warning. If you're still here and you don't want to be spoiled, even though this is the full spoiler review, you might want to get out. Okay, so the key characters in Supergirl is obviously Supergirl. Kara Zor-El, she's a flawed but powerful Kryptonian searching for a purpose. They explore her backstory, which is really well done, actually. Ruth is a young alien whose desire for revenge drives a lot of the story, along with the crypto angle as well. Krim's the primary villain. He's responsible for Ruth's tragedy and her revenge-seeking journey. Crypto is, of course, the dog, the super empowered dog. Lobo, who's here, he's the infamous bounty hunter. He adds both humor and chaos, which Momoa did a perfect job of, and it was exactly how Lobo should be on screen. While not a main character, Superman is a key character. He appears briefly. He kind of highlights the difference between him and Kara, with him being, his Boy Scout, always sees the good in people's side, and Kara has a little bit darker world where she sees the truth, as she says. But so the movie starts off. You see Kara. She's, it's got her room where she's sleeping in, and Crypto wakes her up, and she's living kind of a reckless, lonely life, following her destruction of Krypton, which we'll go into later. But she's struggling with grief. She doesn't see herself as a symbol of hope that Superman has become for the people of Earth. And then we switch to Ruth, who is on her planet with her parents. Her father makes swords, very like the best swords apparently in the universe. And as they're, they hear a ship coming, and they want his best swords that he's made. This is Krim. Krim comes in and he does his little, the usual thing about wanting this, wanting that, but wanting more. Bruce's brother, who was listening to music on headphones for some reason, which was odd, definitely a James Gunn thing, takes them off, comes out, and he runs out to defend his parents. Nothing's really happening to them at this point, but Krim throws an axe and hits him in the back and kills him, which sets off his mom, which makes sense. And then he kills her. He kills the dad. He lets Ruth live as the whole place burns down. And so Ruth watches her family die at the hands of Krim, which she is seeking revenge for. Kara, meanwhile, goes to a planet where there's a red sun, so it weakens her powers, so she can feel getting drunk. So she's drinking and pretty wasted. Ruth enters the bar type, the saloon or whatever, and she just yells out she's wanting help to take revenge on Krim for her family. She says she'll offer his sword as payment. Somebody takes it. Kara doesn't like that, so even in her drunken, weakened stupor, she beats that guy and gets the sword back for her. But she leaves, leaving Ruth there. Meanwhile, a little later, she's in her ship, which is still on the planet, and Ruth approaches Kara, seeking help with revenge. Kara at this point is still saying no, and they're off when they're off the ship talking. Krim finds the ship because Ruth's dad blew his ship up with a pretty cool little weapon device. Was pretty neat. And so Krim is planning on stealing Kara's ship. They basically do. They get on there while Ruth and Kara and Crypto are out. Well, Crypto sees them, takes off running at them. They shoot Crypto with an arrow, and they take off. Well, they find out that through some kind of, medicine woman, I guess, type thing, witch, creature, alien, that the arrow was poisoned, and Crypto has 3 days to live. So she needs the antidote, which Krim has, of course, which is the whole reason for Kara going is that. She's not really going at first to help Ruth. But it gives her that personal reason to join the mission, as Krim has the antidote for Crypto. So Ruth joins Kara on the hunt for Krim, and they board a space bus, which there was a pretty funny scene there. The driver and his interpreter was very good. So as they're flying, they get hijacked by pirates. Kara is jettisoned into space. She starts, and the sun comes around the planet. She gets sunlight, And she pretty much kicks everybody's butts of the pirates, and that's pretty much how that scene goes. They get back on the bus, and the bus takes them to where they need to be. So they're in a bar, and they're trying to find out if anybody knows where Krim's crew is. They pick a fight. Car kind of beats them all up because they were wanting to take Ruth as payment, and she wouldn't let them. So she beats them all up. That's in there that attacked her, and the bartender and the bartender's wife, who were nice to Kara. They sit down a seat, but then over in the corner, meanwhile, Kara is very confident. She's a very confident person, but then she sees Lobo's hook chain thing on the table, and he speaks, and she really gets like nervous and almost scared, which is pretty cool to see. She says that's Lobo. He considers himself a god and all that. Some good back and forth there, but nothing happens there, of course. So the owners invite Kara to stay and to go to their place. Well, the owners drug Kara with the same medicine that hurt Crypto. They were doing this in order to get in a deal to get their daughter back, because then they could give Kara and Ruth. But due to Kara's powers, it doesn't totally do the job. She fights when Krim shows up to gather his prizes. So there's a big long fight, really well done. Lobo joins the fight later, but he's just there to pick up a bounty of a guy with a redhead mohawk who's on Krim's crew. So he's not really there to help. He kind of, as Lobo does, in a sideways helps the good guys. At the end, there's one bad guy left that Kara had an interaction with. She encourages him to tell her where Krim is and to give her a ride, which he does. So they drop her and Ruth off. They say they're not going to get any closer. They drop her off, take off. Kara starts walking. Well, actually, Ruth stowed away. So when the ship was taking off, Ruth jumped out. But as Kara's walking away, a green sun comes up, and which acts like kryptonite and really kind of incapacitates her. This is the part I didn't understand, and maybe it's like this in the comic. I never read the Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow comic. I had no idea that green light made them weak, so that was a bit of a surprise to me. Take it for what it is, I guess. It was a good plot, or a good thing to, make her weak so she just didn't kill everybody and get. So Ruth is there. She drags her to a cave, and she goes to confront Krim. She's caught. She's jailed in a cell right beside Lobo, which was kind of shocking that Lobo was in the cell, because it doesn't happen to Lobo often. Is able to get out of the cell by killing the guard, which Lobo was very impressed with, and he said, "Aren't you forgetting something?" When she uses the key to get out. She comes back to let him out, but he kicks the gate open because that can't hold Lobo. So he is going after his, and Ruth's going after Krim. There's, Kara, eventually the green sun goes down, the yellow sun comes up. It's enough to give her enough strength to fly up into the air, to absorb. She puts her suit on, which Ruth brought her off of Krim's ship. So she's wearing the suit, and the suit looks good. And she comes in, and there's a big fight, a whole bunch of fighting. And I won't go into that because there's just a lot of it. It's not too much. It was good. It was well done. In the end, after all the fighting's done, Lobo's there he actually comes in and saves Kara, because they have arrows which have kryptonite in them that Krim shot into her, which would have killed her if Lobo hadn't come and saved her there. But he was still looking just to get his bounty, so he kind of killed the guy, cut his head off, put it in a bag, and he kind of rode off. But Kara was able to get the arrows out at that point, and the sun revived her. So then there was the big, just kept more fighting, a little. And I've seen people say this, and they said it in a bad way, the Mad Max reference, but at the end there is a very Mad Max reference where all the vehicles encircle Ruth. But I didn't. I mean, doesn't everything is taken from something anymore? So, but so Kara gets rid of all the guys. They're all knocked out or dead, and Krem is laying there after she just beats the tar out of him after getting full absorption from the sun. And Ruth has the opportunity to take revenge. Kara convinces her not to do it because it will change her and she won't be able to get rid of it. And as Ruth walks away, and Krem starts talking about, never be safe. But Kara isn't Clark. She's not Superman. So she puts a sword through his stomach and then puts a sword through his neck. So Krem is no more. So in the end, Ruth was going to stay with her aunt on her planet, but she convinced Kara to let her go with her back to Earth, and which was going to be the end credit scene, but is now just the end scene. So there's no end credit scene, just so you know. And Kara accepts her role as a true hero, and rather than simply Superman's cousin, and she returns to Earth, and in the apartment, Clark is there, and she tells him that she's going to stay a little while. So like I said, I really enjoyed the movie. I had a lot of fun with it. If you like Superman, the new Superman, you're going to like this one. I might even like it a little better, to be honest. So go out and see it. It was definitely worth seeing on the big screen if you get a chance. And if not, definitely watch it at home. So thanks for joining us on this episode of The Talking ET. If you enjoyed the show, we'd appreciate it if you'd share it with a friend. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to hit that YouTube button and ring that bell for updates on new episodes. Also, like and share us on Facebook. And as usual, if you have any ideas for episodes or topics you'd like me to cover, let me know in the comments. See you next time.
Ba-doom.